I welcome the motion as well. Tomorrow, a coroner will deliver findings of the inquests into the deaths of 10 people from Ballymurphy in Belfast in August 1971. And that period was a tumultuous time, and the political landscape had been changing dramatically since 1968. The British Army that had arrived on the streets in August 1969 were supposed to protect Catholics, and instead an element took over where the B Specials and the RUC left off. The policy of internment directed at the IRA was imposed indiscriminately on Catholics, further alienating the community. And the leaders of the civil rights movement continued to work for peace and political reform instead of violence right up to the Good Friday Agreement. Between August 1969 and 1973, 60,000 people in Belfast, more than 10% of the city's population, was forced to move. That's the biggest forced migration anywhere in Europe since the end of World War II, including people from Ballymurphy. And of course, people outside of Belfast too, to camps in the south, including my own mother and my eldest sister when she was less than a year old, because their homes weren't safe anymore. The streets were terrifying. It's against this backdrop that 10 people were killed in Ballymurphy massacre in Belfast. And for 50 years, the family have sought the truth about how the deceased were killed and to have their names cleared of wrongdoing, as was alleged. There was no police investigation at the time. They had to do it themselves. Gael, out of respect, I'd like to read the names of the deceased into the record, an acknowledgement of the suffering their families have faced over the last 50 years, and yet again in the last week, and in the hope that tomorrow they get the answers that they need. I know we disagree on a lot in this House, but hopefully we'll agree on this. With your permission. Father Hugh Mullen, 38. Francis Quinn, 19. Daniel Taggart, 44. Joan Connolly, 44. Noel Phillips, 19. Joseph Murphy, 41. John Laverty, 20. Joseph Core, 43. Edward Doherty, 31. John McCurr, 49. And I want to pay respect to Pat McCarthy, who died of a heart attack and isn't part of the inquest. As others have pointed out, there have been reports that a unilateral amnesty imposed by the British government could also be announced tomorrow, which would undermine any pathways to justice, not just for them, but for all victims. And the Stormont Agreement principles were based on consensus and it should be taken forward in that manner. If it's true, it's utterly devastating, unjust for all of us and our hopes for reconciliation, and it casts another shadow on East-West relationships. On a day that should be about truth and accountability, it could also be about dodging it. And there could be no dodging of the consensus around the Stormont House Agreement, and rule of law is part of that. There are significant gaps in the implementation of the Good Friday Agreement, including legacy, a Bill of Rights, the Civic Forum and the North-South Consultative Forum, and I'm committed to implementing all of them. A Bill of Rights can set the foundation for all citizens on equality. But in particular today, I want to focus on the Civic Forum and the North-South Consultative Forum. Post the trauma of Brexit, post-COVID, where we're all focused on rebuilding and what we've learned, what we need to change, these forums would give communities a wider platform to engage at a time where stability is needed. We can see the people and the communities that politics has left behind in the North, and we saw that recently, the areas that didn't benefit from the peace dividend, and we know the reasons why. And it has been a factor in the unrest. These forums could address the gaps and create some momentum for change. To look at creating better economic opportunities for communities to address cycles of poverty, the business community taking advantage of the GB and EU markets and the investment and opportunities Northern Ireland desperately needs. The North-South Forum could examine the all-island economy and potential for exports and tourism. In general, I too believe there's too much inward thinking and stakeholders working only to their isms and bases at the moment by the British government and the two main parties in the North. The agreement has been damaged by a Brexit and a British nationalism agenda, a solely unionist agenda in Brexit negotiations, and a single-lens reaction to the protocol, and of course, Sinn Féin's consistent prioritisation of their extreme version of republicanism as played out during the pandemic, and disregard for public health guidelines and regular celebrations of people who have taken lives, which does re-traumatise people in other communities, and it is divisive. For me, we are in a period of change, because of internal and external factors. And I mean this genuinely when I say I would rather write our future together than try to rewrite the past. Instead of widening the base, we should be narrowing the divide. Of course, all of this puts more pressure on the Irish Government to uphold and defend the Good Friday Agreement in all of its parts. And I believe we have to be absolutely fierce about that. There's no alternative to reconciliation within the North, North-South and East-West. The Assembly is necessary to address political, social and economic problems. Conversations are happening about our future. In political parties, in civic society, in my own party, and I'm committed to the work of the New Ireland Commission that has started as well. It was respectful dialogue that reached every part of this island and brought us to agreement 23 years ago. Consensus is a process, just like the peace process, and I do hope that it brings us to a new Ireland that can be finally free of identity politics.